Donald Trump's promised wall between the United States and Mexico is to go ahead.
We will build a great wall along the southern border.
It was one of his most famous campaign pledges. Now he's poised to make it a reality, as he faces fresh controversy over plans to stop the closure of Guantanamo Bay and to reopen secret CIA detention centres. So tonight, Theresa May promises to formalise her plans for Brexit. The dramatic rise in rough sleepers in England. Charities say the situation is appalling. And the employers facing a dressing down for telling female workers to wear heels.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Good evening. No longer just a campaign promise, the legal foundations will be laid today for Donald Trump's controversial border wall with Mexico. He'll be signing the executive order to make it a reality. The new president's also said to be considering some even more drastic steps, including barring all immigration from certain countries and reversing plans to close Guantanamo Bay and even revoking a ban on the use of torture. Our Washington correspondent Robert Moore has the latest.
Donald Trump has already signed a series of controversial executive orders.
Okay.
But none as symbolic as his next presidential step, authorizing the funding for the construction of the wall along the Mexican border.
Are you ready?
It was the great populist theme of the campaign.
We will build a great wall along the southern border.
Electrifying his crowds.
And who's going to pay for that wall?
Becoming the signature promise of his bid for the White House.
We're going to have the wall. We're going to have the wall.
The current barrier is a mix of wall and fencing that stretches a few hundred miles. Trump is planning to extend it along the entire 2,000-mile border, and today insisted Mexico would indeed pay for it.
We will be, in a form, reimbursed by Mexico, which I've always said.
So they'll pay us back?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Mexico that way, US of A that way.
But border agents have told me that the tunnels used by migrants and drug couriers that we saw ourselves this summer will always frustrate their efforts to seal the frontier. Even a high wall can often be climbed. Just look at these drug smugglers effortlessly scaling it. There is also an imminent executive order that will block the arrival of refugees from countries like Syria and Iraq. Immigration activists call that a shocking message to the world.
I think President Trump's executive orders are an assault on the American dream, our values, and our culture as a nation.
In addition, the White House has just issued a draft proposal to reopen the CIA's black sites, those covert interrogation centers used to hold Islamic militants. In the past, it was in these locations that waterboarding was used, a technique Trump has long championed.
Then they said to me, what do you think of waterboarding? I said, I think it's great, but I don't think we go far enough. And the whole place, it's true. It's true.
But some are warning that reviving that would be disastrous and illegal.
Any military leader you respect have said we should not torture people, and I'm very confident that it wouldn't stand a day in court if they tried to restore that.
It also seems certain that the prison at Guantanamo Bay will now remain open indefinitely. Trump is making clear that in national security, as in trade and immigration, America is now heading in a new direction.
So, Robert, how much opposition will the new president face then to these proposals?
Oh, of course, Mary, there's going to be intensive opposition on multiple fronts. Look, just take the wall, for example. I mean, forget the politics of it. There are going to be serious sort of technical and financial questions about it. Mexico won't pay for the wall, despite what Donald Trump says. And certainly Congress here doesn't want to take ownership of a $20 billion project that probably would prove ineffective in any case. Now, on that waterboarding and on the opening up potentially of CIA black sites, look, it's just a draft proposal in any case, and as John McCain says, it almost certainly wouldn't survive a legal challenge. For many Americans and certainly for US allies overseas, it does hint at America sort of changing its moral character. It sort of alludes to a fortress America, to this country kind of pulling up the drawbridge. And the point is, we haven't yet got to the most controversial proposals of all. For example, the deportation of millions of undocumented workers. That might be the most polarizing issue that we've yet had.
Robert Moore in Washington, thank you. And if you go to our Facebook page shortly, Robert will be taking your questions about President Trump's latest announcements. Here, the Prime Minister's confirmed to the House of Commons that she will be meeting President Trump in Washington on Friday, the first foreign leader to do so since his inauguration. Well, that was expected. But then Theresa May surprised many MPs by announcing her government will publish a so-called white paper detailing its plans for Brexit, something Number 10 had been resisting. Here's our political correspondent, Libby Wiener.
Defeated in the courts, Theresa May was facing another potential defeat in the Commons.
Are you worried about defeat, Prime Minister?
Pro-Remain MPs demanding she produce a white paper on her Brexit plans. Her solution, give them what they wanted.
I set out that bold plan for a global Britain last week, and I recognise there is an appetite in this House to see that plan set out in a white paper, and I can confirm to the House that our plan will be set out in a white paper published in this House.
It completely wrong-footed the Labour leader.
The Prime Minister has wasted 80 days between the time of the original judgment and the appeal. Could we know when this white paper is going to be available to us?
Awkward, certainly, but the Prime Minister wasn't finished.
He's the leader of the party. He can't even agree with his Shadow Chancellor about Brexit. The Shadow Chancellor can't agree with the Shadow Brexit Secretary. He talks about us standing up for Britain. They can't speak for themselves. They'll never speak for Britain.
Following the Supreme Court ruling, the government will now publish a bill tomorrow on triggering Article 50. There'll be a white paper on its Brexit aims in due course, though not necessarily before MPs debate and vote on the Article 50 bill next week. The aim is still to get approval from both houses of Parliament by the end of March. The concession over a white paper was welcomed by some.
It means as MPs we can now debate how the negotiations are going to go, what we want from a Brexit deal on behalf of all of our constituents, and especially those who feel they voted Remain and that they've been a bit put to the side.
But pro-Remain Labour MPs were less impressed.
The white paper won't make a huge amount of difference.
It might make a bit of a difference, but in the end, if it's the hard Brexit that Theresa May says she wants, and failing that, falling back on WTO rules, that is calamitous for our country's economy, and I don't think anyone in their right mind should support it.
But after yesterday's bruising court ruling, any serious upset in the Commons now looks unlikely.
OK, so Libby, explain then. How much difference does the Prime Minister's pledge to publish this white paper really make?
Well, tactically, it's been very effective. You saw how uncomfortable the Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, was when she surprised him by announcing that, after all, she was going to produce a white paper. And she does seem to have bought off some potential Tory rebels. How much more we'll learn about her plans for Brexit, I'm not sure. Her spokeswoman was saying that effectively it will be a reworking of her speech last week. But some MPs I've spoken to do think it'll be an important benchmark by which they'll be able to judge the government's actions by. And I did detect a difference in Theresa May's approach. She does seem to be more comfortable with the idea of parliamentary scrutiny now, despite that Supreme Court defeat yesterday, which had forced her to come to Parliament. She does seem more comfortable with the whole idea of it.
OK, thanks, Libby. But on another matter, there was an embarrassing gaffe, wasn't there, from Jeremy Corbyn today at Prime Minister's Questions. Tell us about it.
Yes, well, it was at the start of Prime Minister's Questions when the Leader of the Opposition began to express his condolences for a soldier whom he said, a policeman rather, whom he said had lost his life in a shooting incident in Northern Ireland at the weekend. Now, the police officer he referred to was injured very badly, but he wasn't in fact killed. The Police Federation of Northern Ireland have said it was a shocking error and have demanded an apology. His spokesman did effectively offer an apology, saying that no offence was intended. Well, that's as maybe, but I think it was very unfortunate.
OK, Libby Vina at Westminster, thank you. Police investigating alleged threats against the campaigner who brought a Brexit case to court have detained a second man. Gina Miller received a series of threats on social media after deciding to challenge the government over Brexit. The suspect was arrested in central London. And a couple and a young boy have been killed in a house fire in Surrey. They've been named locally as Tiago and Adriano Nunes, and their son, also called Tiago. Police and fire services are investigating the deaths and the cause of the blaze. Now, there has been a significant rise in the number of people sleeping rough on the streets of England, according to official local authority estimates. The number of rough sleepers is up by 16% over a year and has doubled since 2010. Rupert Evelyn reports now from Bristol, where they're providing extra beds during some of the coldest nights of the year.
Exposed, vulnerable and freezing. It's the reality of rough sleeping for those who have nowhere to call home. And it is a firm feature in our everyday landscape. Peter is on the front line. As temperatures dropped again last night, he bedded down in a Bristol park. He's trapped. Having recently returned from overseas, he has to wait 3 months to get help from the state.
I have no rights to any British benefits whatsoever. I can't be housed by the council. I can't receive universal credit. Nothing at all.
And what does that mean in reality?
In reality, it means I've been out sleeping in the frost with no money in my pocket. Sleeping rough.
In this city, like many others, churches are opening their doors. Extra beds to accommodate high demand from those with nowhere else to go. On a single night this autumn in England, there were more than 4,100 people sleeping rough. That's almost 500 more than the year before, and more than double the 1,700 that were estimated to be sleeping on the streets in 2010. Such a marked increase has outraged those who work with rough sleepers.
If you look below the statistics, that's thousands of people who are so desperate that they're forced to sleep in doorways, in bus shelters, in parks, and frankly that's appalling.
And the outlook is bleak, say a charity working with young homeless people in Bristol.
I think it's going to get worse. I think we've got universal credit coming in very strongly into Bristol soon, and I don't think we're ready for the fallout of the number of people that are going to have difficulties with their benefits and therefore difficulty with their housing.
The government say they're investing hundreds of millions, but as the stats rise, they are exposed, vulnerable to the criticism that they're failing to protect those left out in the cold. Rupert Evelyn, ITV News, Bristol.
Still to come on the ITV Evening News, why bosses who insist women wear high heels could be in for a kicking. And we are live on the red carpet with all the stars up for gongs at the National TV Awards. But before all that, ITV News has learned that the delivery company Hermes is about to face a legal challenge over the way it pays its nearly 15,000 couriers. The company treats them as self-employed, meaning they get no holiday or sick pay. And in some cases, it's claimed not even the minimum wage. Our business editor, Joel Hills, investigates.
We get paid 65p per parcel.
Victor Squires has been working as a courier with Hermes for 7 months, but he's had enough.
Thank you very much, bye.
He claims he earns less than the national minimum wage, and an IT glitch before Christmas left him owing the company money and has proved the final straw. He's packing it in at the end of the month.
I've got a machine in the car to say how many parcels I've done, right? And I've got a red book to say how many parcels I've done. So how can they say that I've been overpaid? That's in black and white.
This courier isn't quitting. She's asked that we conceal her identity because she's worried she'll lose her job. Hermes argues its couriers are self-employed, not staff, but she disagrees.
I feel like they like to tell us that we're self-employed so that they can get away with not having to pay whatever tax they need to do or whatever pension scheme they have to be involved in.
Hermes says it has 14,500 self-employed couriers. Unlike staff, they have no legal rights to holiday pay or sick pay, and Hermes does not have to pay them the national minimum wage. Couriers are paid per parcel delivered and not by the hour. But the company says the average courier earns £9.90 an hour, well above the national minimum wage. Last October, the GMB union won a similar case against Uber. An employment tribunal in London decided its drivers are not self-employed. Uber is appealing the ruling. Frank Field is concerned about the growing number of people working in what he calls the gig economy, and he challenges Hermes' claim to be a caring business.
The sooner that this friendly family company faces up to how badly it's behaving, but how it's pushed people down towards the bottom end of the labour market, has devised means by which those people do not get the national living wage, and own up to that and start paying that, the better.
In recent years, new technology has delivered benefits to companies and consumers. Hermes and others have thrived thanks to the internet and mobile phone apps. But unions argue that too often it's at the expense of workers.
So, Joel, you've had a response from the union and the company. What have they said?
Well, the GMB unions declined to comment on the matter, but the company, Hermes, has been more forthcoming. It says that Victor, actually, you heard from in the piece, Mary, has actually worked for the company for 2 years, and they are clear he's earned in that period much more than the minimum wage. It says it's unaware of any legal proceedings against us by the union. However, it adds, we will contest and challenge our self-employment courier model on the same grounds that we've successfully resolved other claims. Now, the reason Hermes and Uber are fighting so hard on these cases is because they know that their business models are under threat. They potentially face much higher tax bills in terms of VAT and national insurance, and of course their wage bills look set to go up too if they lose. And the cost of employing workers is a key thing here. We would end up paying more for the parcels and the taxis we hire, but of course the staff that carry out the work would be better off.
All right, Joel, thank you. Now, an inquiry is underway after a pensioner died after waiting more than 2 hours for an ambulance to take him to hospital. Richard Hansbury suffered a head wound after a fall at home in Wigan. The North West Ambulance Service says it was extremely busy on that day and has begun an investigation. And British Vogue's editor-in-chief, Alexandra Shulman, is stepping down after 25 years running the magazine. Ms. Shulman has been praised as the most successful editor in Vogue's 100-year history. The case for a woman sacked from her job for refusing to wear high heels is among hundreds that prompted MPs to demand tougher action against discriminatory workplace dress codes. Such demands on employees are already illegal, but today 2 parliamentary committees said they're still far too common, showing that the current law simply isn't working. Rebecca Barry reports.
What shoes do you wear to work? And more importantly, do you get a choice? Too many women, say MPs, face sexist dress codes, having to wear high heels or revealing outfits.
I had a friend who was told that she should look as feminine as possible at work, wear heels. For client meetings, I tend to prefer to wear heels anyway, and we'll have the option to, just because it looks smarter as well.
I think it's sad more than anything that people are under pressure to dress in a particular way.
Can a woman still be successful without conforming in that way?
Absolutely.
The report was triggered by the treatment of receptionist Nicola Thorpe, who was sent home without pay for refusing to wear heels.
This was never just about a pair of high heels, and the report shows that. And it's just important that we call out sexist behaviour. We don't roll our eyes and say, God, this is a storm in a teacup, this is a big deal over nothing. If it's a big deal over nothing, then let women wear flat shoes.
MPs say they've been inundated with examples of women forced to wear shorter skirts, apply makeup or dye their hair.
It's already unlawful for employers to impose sexist dress codes at work, but MPs say the law needs to be enforced more vigorously, with bigger financial penalties for those who breach the law.
There is no doubt that other women are not speaking out because they're afraid to lose their jobs. If they're on 0 hours contracts, for instance, or they're on a short-term contract, they're afraid of not getting further employment.
But this director at a recruitment consultancy says choosing to wear heels can be empowering.
You've got to dress as if you care. If that means that putting on a pair of heels, however big, makes you feel better and act differently, and therefore that will be reflected in the presentation that you're giving, then I think that's appropriate.
The government says discriminatory dress codes are unacceptable, and Parliament will debate the issue this spring. Rebecca Barry, ITV News.
We are very interested here on the Evening News in your opinion on this issue. Do you think work dress codes are sexist? You can take part in a poll on our website, itv.com/news. World champion sprinter Usain Bolt, famous of course for his 9 Olympic gold medals, tonight has only 8. Bolt was a member of the winning Jamaican 4x100 metre relay team at the 2008 Games in Beijing. But another member of that team, Nesta Carter, has failed a retrospective drug test, disqualifying all 4 runners. And finally, Anton Deck up for a record 16th consecutive Presenter of the Year gong at tonight's National Television Awards. But it is a hotly contested category this year because it also features departing Bake Off hosts Mel and Sue. Well, our arts editor Nina Nanar is on the red carpet at London's O2. And Nina, there are lots of nervous-looking TV stars waiting to hear who's won.
Nervous and very noisy. You know, the NTAs have been running for the past 22 years, and for most of those years they have been dominated by one duo. That duo, of course, is Anton Deck. And tonight the I'm a Celebrity hosts are up for their 16th National Television Award. In order to get that award, they have to beat another popular TV duo, Mel and Sue, of course, who are the hosts of the Great British Bake Off. They're leaving the show when it moves to Channel 4. And also that show has its judge, Mary Berry, up for a very prestigious judge award, and she'll be taking on Len Goodman from Strictly Come Dancing. He's leaving Strictly and she is leaving the Great British Bake Off, but tonight she told me she really doesn't mind which of them get the award.
We'll just have to see. It would be, yes, of course it would be.
You really want to win that award, don't you?
It would be lovely, but it would be nice for Len too. So he's retiring and I'm not.
You know, there's another category tonight. For the first time we have period drama, and that is because of the likes of Poldark and Victoria, the 2 mighty costume dramas battling it out on Sunday night for the ratings. Tonight they're battling out for the first ever period drama National Television Award, so that's very, very closely contested. We also have our very first streaming nomination, so a bit of history could be made tonight, but mostly very noisy and very excited down here.
Nina, thank you very much. It's on at 7:30 on ITV tonight. And that is all from us for now. Raggy Omar is here with news at 10. But for now, from all the Evening News team, bye-bye.